Most people think being nice is a virtue, but let's call it what it really is, a survival strategy for the weak. You spend your life apologizing for your existence, seeking validation from people who wouldn't spend a second thinking about you, and sacrificing your own boundaries just to keep the peace. You believe that if you're just good enough, helpful enough, and available enough, the world will finally give you the respect you crave. But look at the reality of your life. Does the world respect you? Or does it take advantage of your silence and your softness? The harsh truth is that being too nice doesn't make you attractive. It makes you predictable. It makes you invisible. The ancient Stoics understood something that most modern men have forgotten. True power doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being respected. And respect is reserved for those who are grounded, those who have boundaries, and those who are not afraid to stand alone. Today, we are going to tear down the mask of the nice guy. I am going to teach you 10 Stoic lessons that will stop you from being a doormat and transform you into someone who is not only respected, but dangerously attractive. This isn't about being cruel. It's about becoming impossible to ignore. If you are tired of being the one who gives everything and receives nothing in return, you need to hear this. Let's begin. The moment you decided your worth depended on what someone else thought of you, you became a prisoner. This is the first, most critical lesson of the Stoics. You must kill the need for external validation. Why do you crave it? Because deep down, you are terrified of being alone with your own judgment. You fear that if you don't receive that validation, that smile, that nod, that approval, you are somehow failing. But let's look at who you are seeking approval from. Most of the time, it's people who are lost, people who have no discipline, and people who are desperately seeking approval themselves. When you try to impress them, you aren't rising. You are sinking to their level. You are trading your sovereign soul for a fleeting moment of comfort. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that the praise of the many is of no value. He knew that the mob is fickle. They will cheer for you today and spit on you tomorrow for the exact same action. If you anchor your identity to their opinions, you are anchoring your house to a shifting sand dune. You will never have peace. You will always be reactive, constantly adjusting your behavior, your voice, and your presence to suit the room you are in. To be truly attractive, you must become the final judge of your own character. When you stop looking for the green light from others, you stop performing. And there is nothing more magnetic than a man who is clearly, unapologetically at peace with himself. He doesn't need to shout to be heard. He doesn't need to smile to be liked. He moves with a quiet, terrifying confidence because he has already approved of himself. This is the silent power the world fears. People will try to test you. They will throw drama at you, hoping to see you crack or seek their support. When you stand still, when you don't offer an explanation, when you don't beg for their understanding, they become confused. They begin to wonder, why doesn't this man need me? And in that moment of confusion, their dynamic changes. They move from being your judge to being your student. You must realize that the nice path is a path of weakness disguised as morality. You aren't being nice, you are being manipulative, hoping that if you pay the tax of compliance, you will get the reward of love. But love without respect is just convenience. Stop trying to be liked by the masses and start becoming a person who respects himself. Once you do that, the world will stop treating you as an option and start treating you as an authority. It starts by looking into the mirror and deciding that the only voice that truly matters is the one you hear when you are completely silent. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus, 5 exclusive bonuses. The Silent Power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple. Will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. Think about how many times a day you say the word sorry. You apologize for taking up space. You apologize for having a different opinion. You apologize for not being available when someone else demands your immediate time. This is the absolute hallmark of the nice guy. You have been deeply conditioned by modern society to believe that over-explaining yourself is the polite thing to do. You think that if you just give people enough reasons, if you just explain your situation perfectly, they will understand you, validate you, and forgive you for daring to have boundaries. But let me tell you what the ancient Stoics understood about over-explaining. It is nothing but a confession of weakness. Every single time you over-explain a decision, you are subconsciously telling the other person that they have authority over you. You are handing them the judge's gavel and quietly begging for a favorable verdict. You are asking for permission to live your own life. Seneca, a man of immense power and wisdom, knew that to be everywhere is to be nowhere, and to explain everything is to stand for nothing. When you set a boundary and then immediately follow it up with a 5-minute justification of why you set it, you instantly destroy that boundary. You give the other person room to negotiate. You invite them to poke holes in your logic. And worse, you show them that you do not truly believe in your own right to say no. The ancient philosophers, men who commanded empires and led armies, knew that words are energy. Every unnecessary justification is a massive leak in your vital energy. You are bleeding out your power in conversations that simply do not matter, trying to convince people who do not truly care about your well-being. They only care about what they can extract from you. Dangerous attraction is rooted in mystery, strength, and unwavering certainty. Have you ever noticed that the most respected people in any room are usually the ones who speak the least? When they say no, it is a complete sentence. They do not say, "I can't do this because I have this other thing to do, and I am so sorry, but maybe next time." They simply say, "No, I am unavailable." And then they let the heavy silence hang in the air. That silence terrifies the nice guy. You hate the awkward pause. You desperately want to fill it with words, with comfort, with apologies, just to make the other person feel better. But you must learn to embrace that silence. Let them feel it. Let them realize that your no is a wall made of solid stone, not a flimsy fence they can easily push over with a little bit of pressure. When you stop explaining yourself, you force people to deal with the raw reality of your boundaries. You stop being a supporting character in their emotional drama, and you finally become the sovereign author of your own life. This creates an undeniable magnetic pull. People are naturally drawn to those who possess unshakable self-certainty. They look at you, and they see a man who does not need to justify his existence to anyone, and they instantly, instinctively respect him. To implement this Stoic lesson, you must start small today. When someone asks you for a favor that you cannot or do not want to do, simply decline politely but firmly. Do not offer a single excuse. Do not invent a fake busy schedule. Just say you cannot commit to it right now. And then, close your mouth. Watch exactly how they react. They might be surprised. They might even be slightly offended at first because you have broken the script they are used to. They are used to you folding. They are used to you bending over backward to accommodate their needs while neglecting your own. But soon, that initial surprise will turn into something far more valuable: respect. You are not being cruel or mean. You are being brutally honest. You are protecting your time, your energy, and your peace of mind, which are the absolute most valuable assets you have in this short life. Stop negotiating your boundaries. Stop trading your hard-earned self-respect for cheap, fleeting popularity. The moment you master the art of the unapologetic no, you become dangerously attractive because you prove to the world that you cannot be bought, manipulated, or controlled by guilt ever again. Most men are slaves, but they don't wear chains. They wear their own emotions like a leash. The moment someone offends them, they explode. The moment things don't go according to plan, they collapse into anxiety. The moment they are denied something they want, they fall into resentment. You think your feelings are the truth. You think that because you feel disrespected or ignored, those feelings are a direct reflection of your objective reality. This is the biggest mistake you will ever make. Your emotions are not the truth. They are messengers, often unreliable ones, colored by your past, your traumas, and your ego. The Stoics, Epictetus in particular, taught the vital distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Your emotions, if left unchecked, are outside of your control. They rise like the tide, but your reaction to them, that is where your sovereign power resides. To be dangerously attractive, you must master the art of emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming a robot or losing your ability to feel joy or empathy. It means stopping the practice of being hijacked by your internal state. When you are nice, you are often just being reactionary. You are scared of tension, so you suppress your anger, or you overperform happiness to avoid conflict. Both of these are forms of emotional slavery. You are letting the environment dictate your internal weather. Real power is found in the eye of the storm, when others are losing their heads, when drama is spiraling, when the world is screaming. You remain the calmest person in the room. This isn't just a strategy for peace, it is a display of immense strength. When you don't react to chaos, you signal to everyone around you that you are untouchable. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are an observer of it. Think about the most magnetic, high-value person you have ever met. Was he frantic? Was he easily offended? Did he need to explain why he was upset? No. He was grounded. He moved with a sense of deliberate pace. Even when things went wrong, he didn't twitch. He absorbed the information, evaluated the reality, and acted with precision. When you start to practice detachment, you stop taking things personally. Someone insults you. That is their struggle, not yours. You see it for what it is, a projection of their own inner turmoil. When you realize that 99% of what people say and do has nothing to do with you and everything to do with their own insecurities, you suddenly gain a massive amount of freedom. You no longer need to defend yourself. You no longer need to prove them wrong. You simply look at them with objective clarity and continue on your path. This is where the transformation happens. When you stop giving people the power to hurt you with their words, you become dangerous. Why? Because you can no longer be manipulated. If someone tries to bait you into an argument, you don't bite. If someone tries to shame you, you don't shrink. You remain immovable. You must stop asking, "How does this make me feel?" and start asking, "What is the truth of this situation?" This simple shift in questioning is the secret to mental toughness. Your feelings are loud, but they are often short-sighted. Your logic, guided by Stoic principles, is quiet, but it is enduring. Stop being the man who is defined by his reactions. Start being the man who defines his own experience. When you master your emotions, you stop being a passenger in your own life and start taking the wheel. And the moment you stop needing the world to treat you a certain way to stay happy, you become the most powerful and the most dangerously attractive person in the room. In the modern digital landscape, you are trained to build in public. You are told that if you don't share your process, your wins and your struggles, you don't exist. This is the biggest lie ever sold to the ambitious man. When you broadcast your intentions, you feel a hit of dopamine as if you have already achieved the goal. You tell the world you are starting a business, getting fit, or learning a new skill. And the social validation you receive makes your brain feel like you've already done the hard work. But in reality, you haven't moved an inch. The Stoic masters knew the power of the shadow. They understood that energy is limited, and that every time you speak about a goal before it is completed, you dissipate the very fuel required to achieve it. You are leaking your own drive. When you tell people your plans, you invite their skepticism, their quiet envy, and their unnecessary opinions. You give them a chance to plant seeds of doubt in your mind before you have even begun. Why give your enemies or even your well-meaning but mediocre friends the power to discourage you? Why give them the blueprint to your future before you've laid the foundation? A predator does not announce his position before he strikes. He stays silent. He observes. He waits. And then, when the moment is perfect, he acts with absolute, overwhelming force. You need to adopt this mindset. If you are building a new life, a new business, or a new version of yourself, keep it to yourself. Let the results be the first thing people know about it. When you succeed in silence, the impact is 10 times greater. When you finally reveal your progress, it isn't a promise of what you might do. It is an undeniable record of what you have done. That is true authority. That is how you command respect without saying a single word. People who talk too much are always suspected of doing too little. By choosing to stay silent about your moves, you build an air of mystery. People start to wonder what you are up to. They start to realize that you are not like them. You are not seeking their applause. You are moving to a different drum, one that only you can hear. This is not about being a hermit. It is about protecting your internal fire. Your ambition is a sacred flame. Every time you expose it to the wind of public opinion, it risks being blown out. Guard it. Shelter it. Work in the dark so that you can shine in the light. When you master the art of working in silence, you will realize that you no longer need the feedback of the crowd to stay on track. Your motivation becomes intrinsic. You do the work because it needs to be done, not because you need someone to double-tap your progress. You become a man who is driven by purpose, not by perception. And in a world that is obsessed with appearance, a man who is obsessed with substance is, by definition, dangerously attractive. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus, 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple. Will you continue reacting to life or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. You are addicted to the like, not just the digital one on your screen, but the metaphorical like that you hunt for in every conversation, every relationship, and every workplace interaction. You treat the opinions of others as if they were currency, trading your own integrity to purchase a few moments of approval. But here is the bitter truth. You are buying a product that has no value, and you are going bankrupt in the process. The Stoic masters, particularly Epictetus, were obsessed with the concept of the internal citadel. They believed that if your happiness depends on something outside of your own mind, whether it's the weather, the economy, or what your neighbor thinks of your new car, you are a slave. And a slave cannot be dangerously attractive. Attraction is rooted in autonomy. It is rooted in the quality of being self-contained, like a star that generates its own light rather than a moon that reflects the light of others. When you seek validation, you are essentially telling the world, "I don't trust my own judgment, so please tell me I'm okay." Do you have any idea how repelling that is? When you project this neediness, people can smell it. They might play along for a while. They might give you that hollow praise you crave, but they will never respect you. Deep down, they look at you and see someone who is fundamentally unfinished, someone who needs a crowd to feel whole. To break this addiction, you must learn to practice voluntary discomfort regarding social approval. This is a powerful Stoic exercise. You intentionally stop doing things just to please others. You start expressing your true opinion, even when you know it will be unpopular. You start setting boundaries that you know will disappoint people. You start living by your own internal code of ethics, not the social code of the masses. When you do this, you will experience the social friction that comes with being a man of principle. People will get annoyed. They might try to pull you back into line using guilt or social pressure. They want you back in the nice guy box because it's safer for them when you are predictable and accommodating. When you refuse to fit back into that box, you become dangerous to them. You are no longer controllable. But this is exactly the transition point. As you endure the initial heat of their disapproval, you will realize something miraculous. Nothing bad happened. You didn't die. Your world didn't end. In fact, you feel lighter. You realize that the social apocalypse you feared was nothing more than a ghost created by your own insecurities. The moment you realize that other people's opinions have absolutely zero power over your character, you become invincible. You are no longer playing the game of pleasing. You are playing the game of becoming. You stop looking at the world as a place to be accepted and start looking at it as a place to be mastered. Ask yourself this: if you were the last person on earth, would you still be doing what you are doing? Would you still be holding those beliefs? If the answer is no, you are living for an audience that doesn't care about you. Stop performing. Turn your back on the theater of public opinion. When you stand on your own 2 feet, when you are comfortable in your own solitude, when you speak your truth without asking for a nod of approval, you radiate a raw, authentic power that is impossible to ignore. That is the essence of being dangerously attractive. It is the magnetism of a man who is not for sale. Stop checking your reflection in the eyes of others. Start looking into the mirror of your own soul and asking, am I living a life I am proud of? If the answer is yes, then let the rest of the world have their opinions. They don't have to live your life. They only have to watch you lead it. Why is it that most people live their entire lives at the mercy of others? Why do they suffer so profoundly when the world does not bend to their expectations? It is because they have never learned the most fundamental lesson of existence. You do not own the world, but you have absolute sovereignty over how you interpret it. This is the internal environment. The majority of people are like leaves in a storm. They blow wherever the wind takes them. A rude comment, they are crushed. A professional setback, they are defeated. A social media trend that doesn't include them, they feel irrelevant. Their internal world is a direct reflection of their external circumstances. This is not just a weakness, it is a tragedy. You are giving away the most precious resource you possess, your own peace of mind. The Stoics looked at the world with a clarity that most of us find terrifying. They realized that you cannot control the opinions of your boss, the mood of your partner, or the outcome of a project. You can only control your judgment of those things. If you decide that a critique is an insult, you suffer. If you decide that the same critique is an opportunity to improve, you grow. The reality did not change, your interpretation did. To become dangerously attractive, you must stop being a victim of your own interpretations. You must cultivate an internal garden that is independent of the drought outside. When you meet a man who is truly powerful, notice his presence. He is not bothered by the trivial annoyances that make others lose their temper. He is not rattled by minor inconveniences. Why? Because he has mastered his internal environment. He has built a fortress around his mind. How do you build this? You start by practicing objective observation. When something happens, something that usually triggers an emotional explosion, force yourself to describe it as if you were a neutral reporter. Do not add emotional adjectives. Do not use words like unfair, disrespectful, or catastrophic. Simply state the facts. He spoke in a loud voice, rather than he was being aggressive. The project was delayed, rather than this is a disaster. This simple exercise strips the situation of the power it has to hurt you. It separates the event from your emotional reaction to the event. When you master this, you become untouchable. People will try to trigger you, they will try to stir up drama, and they will fail. They will look at you with confusion because they cannot find the button to push to make you react. This is the privilege of the few. Most people will never know what it feels like to be truly free in their own minds. They will always be tethered to the shifting sands of public opinion. By choosing to master your internal environment, you are opting out of that madness. You are choosing to live by your own internal compass, regardless of the storm raging outside. This does not mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't allow pain to dictate your behavior. You can feel sadness and still do your work. You can feel anger and still speak with precision. You can feel rejection and still walk with your head held high. That is the mark of a man who is not a slave. When you demonstrate this level of emotional discipline, you become a rare breed. You become a leader, not because you seek power over others, but because you possess absolute power over yourself. People are naturally drawn to this. They want to be near someone who is calm in the chaos. They want to be near someone who is not easily swayed by the noise of the world. Your internal world is the only kingdom you will ever truly rule. Stop letting intruders walk through your gates and sabotage your peace. Guard it, defend it, cultivate it. The moment you decide that your peace is worth more than being right, more than being liked, and more than being understood, you have reached a level of maturity that most men never achieve. You become dangerous, not because of what you can do to others, but because of what you are no longer willing to let others do to you. We have reached the final lesson, and this is where most men fail. They learn the theory, they understand the concepts, they try to stay silent for a few days, and then they retreat back into their old comfortable patterns of weakness. They treat these lessons like a hobby rather than a metamorphosis. But if you want to become truly dangerously attractive, the kind of man who commands a room just by entering it, you have to move beyond temporary practice and into permanent embodiment. You have to become a force of nature. A force of nature doesn't need to ask for permission to exist. It doesn't need to be nice to be accepted. The wind does not care if you like its direction. The ocean does not stop to explain why it is deep. They simply are. When you reach this level of Stoic mastery, your very presence becomes a boundary. People will stop trying to manipulate you, not because you fought them, but because they intuitively realize that your internal foundation is too deep, too heavy, and too grounded to be shifted. This is the state of total self-possession. You are no longer looking at life through the lens of what can I get, or how can I be liked. You are operating from a place of what can I contribute, and who am I becoming. You have finally accepted that the only opinion that ever mattered was your own, because you are the only one who has to live with your choices for the rest of your days. When you reach this stage, your attractiveness is not based on your clothes, your bank account, or your ability to entertain others. It is based on the undeniable truth of your character. It is the raw, magnetic energy of a man who has conquered his own mind. You will find that people are naturally drawn to you, not to use you, but to learn from you, to be near you, to see if they can catch a spark of the fire that burns within you. But be warned, becoming a force of nature means you will lose people. You will lose the nice guy friends who relied on your availability. You will lose the drama seekers who fed off your reactions. You will lose the critics who can no longer find a way to hurt you. This is not a loss. It is a clearing of the path. You are stripping away the dead weight so that you can move faster and climb higher. You have now been given the keys to the kingdom of your own soul. You know that external validation is a trap. You know that over-explaining is a leak of power. You know that emotional detachment is the ultimate weapon against chaos. You know that silence is the language of the powerful, and that working in the dark is the way to shine in the light. Do not let these words vanish into the ether of your memory. Knowledge without application is just intellectual vanity. If you have listened this far, it is because you are done with the life you were living. You are ready to step into the role of the creator, not the creature. The world is full of men who are nice, compliant, and deeply unfulfilled. Be the exception. Be the man who values his integrity more than his popularity. Be the man who speaks when it counts and remains silent when it serves. Be the man who owns his internal environment, who stands firm in the storm, and who never ever asks for the world's approval to be who he knows he is. Your journey to self-mastery is not a destination, it is a way of living. It is a commitment you make to yourself every single morning when you wake up and choose focus over distraction, truth over comfort, and strength over niceness. Now go. The path is clear. Stop being the version of yourself that the world expects, and start being the version of yourself that commands respect. You are capable of greatness, but greatness is reserved for those who are willing to do the hard, silent work of building it from the inside out. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. +5. Exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today.